NBA trade season is officially upon us, with the Golden State Warriors making the first big move. Now, there might have been a minor trade earlier this week between the Miami Heat and Indiana Pacers involving Thomas Bryant, but this happened to be the first big one. And according to Shams Charania, the Brooklyn Nets have finalized a deal with Golden State to send guard Dennis Schroder and 1 second-round draft pick for DeAnthony Melton and 3 second-round draft picks. A little bit of a shock here, not only from Golden State acquiring Dennis Schroder, but from what Brooklyn got for Dennis Schroder. Earlier reports said that they wanted a first-round draft pick for him, but now they only got second-round draft picks, along with an expiring contract and hurt DeAnthony Melton. Not terrible for them though. After all, they are trying to tank here, and Dennis Schroder is simply helping them win too many games for the ability for them to get Cooper Flagg, which I imagine is their ultimate goal here, and that's more than what Golden State could give them right now. I mean, they weren't going to trade Jonathan Kuminga for Dennis Schroder, obviously weren't going to trade a guy like Draymond Green, let alone Brandon Podziemski, so getting an expiring contract, 3 second-round picks, and a better ability to tank probably was a good return for them. But then for Golden State, obviously a really good return for them. They desperately needed more backcourt help, and I think they got it here. Dennis Schroder, despite being 31 years old, is having a really good year, arguably the best year of his entire career. Currently averaging about 18.5 points per game, 6.5 assists per game to only 2.5 turnovers per game, 3 rebounds per game, shooting 45.2% for the field, and 38.7% from 3, a career high not to mention, on 6.5 attempts per game. All around has become a really talented offensive player, a guy that can lead your offense, be your primary playmaker, be a secondary scoring threat, and add a lot of value and versatility to your offense. And for a team like Golden State that I'm definitely not going to say is one-dimensional, but kind of only plays one way in guys that fit that one style, Dennis Schroder could be a really interesting and valuable addition to their offense. I mean, if we're simply looking at play style here and contrasting it, Dennis Schroder does a lot of things that they don't have and a lot of things that they don't do. And one way to point that out is through drives per game. It might not be something you really think of, but a guy driving to the paint can collapse the opponent's defense and generate a ton of open shots, and that's not something that Golden State does much of. Right now, their current leader in drives per game happens to be Steph Curry, with 8.4 of them per game. And apart from him and Jonathan Kuminga, who's averaging 8.1 per game, they have very few guys who can get to the rim and really create that rim penetration to get other guys open on the court. And compared to Dennis Schroder, who's currently averaging 14.7 drives per game, that's a big difference. I mean, if you combine everybody on Golden State's team, they barely average over 30 drives per game, and Schroder has about 50% of that by himself. And then when he does drive to the rim, he's very efficient in not only creating for himself, but for teammates too. Right now he's averaging nearly 2 assists per game on drive attempts, and that's more than double of anybody on Golden State's team. Yes, even Steph Curry. He's only averaging 0.8 assists per game on drive attempts, and Schroder has more than doubled him up here. So between what he can do for himself on the drive attempts, averaging about 7.3 points per game on drive attempts, at about a 50% clip nonetheless, then he can generate for his teammates too. That could be a really valuable addition to their bench unit. When Steph Curry's off the court, they need that guy to generate their offense, not only for himself, but then to get teammates going too. And that's something that Schroder can definitely do as well. I mentioned it before, but he has been a very efficient playmaker, not only averaging about 6.5 assists per game, but then under 3 turnovers per game too. Nearly a 3 assist to turnover ratio here, and that's top 30 in the NBA. And whenever Curry's on the bench, as Brandon Podziemski can't quite fill that role for them yet, maybe in the future, but not quite right now, that's the role that Dennis Schroder definitely can fill for their team. Generating offense for himself, getting teammates going around him, and not sacrificing the efficiency of their offense while doing it. That to me is one of the most valuable, if not the most valuable addition with Dennis Schroder. A guy that helps their offense without taking too much away from it, if anything adding more to it, with a different style of play. And that to me is a real benefit. But then on the other side of that, you gotta be able to fit into Golden State's offense too. Sure, it's great that Dennis Schroder can contrast it and add something different to it, but can he fit into it? I think he can. He might not be known for his 3-point shooting, only a 34.4% career 3-point shooter, but he definitely has improved in recent years and again currently having his career best 3-point shooting year, averaging not only 6.5 attempts per game, a career high for him, but then being very efficient, nearly 39% from 3, and shooting very well on catch and shoot threes too, which he definitely will have to take and make on Golden State's team. Whenever he is sharing the court with Curry and or Buddy Hield, he definitely will have to be a spot-up shooter at times, and he currently has filled that role very well. During this season with Brooklyn, he has attempted a career-high 4 catch-and-shoot threes per game, and then has made 1.6 of them at a 39.6% clip. So even better than his 3-point shooting percentage overall. He might not love playing an off-ball role, but he definitely can do it, shown by that catch-and-shoot 3-point percentage, and with his corner 3-point shooting too. You know, not taking very many of them per game, only accounting for less than 10% of his 3-point shot attempts, but he is connecting on them at a 46.2% clip. So between that and his catch-and-shoot ability, I think he can fill that off-ball role for Golden State's offense whenever he does share the court with Curry, as he will be playing off the ball a little bit more at that point. But with that being said, what can Dennis Schroder do for them on defense? They did lose De'Anthony Melton after all, not only from the trade but prior to that due to an ACL tear. Hopefully he recovers, but they did lose that, and he was their best point of attack defender. But now with them acquiring Dennis Schroder, can he maybe replace that for them? Maybe not quite to that point in my opinion. De'Anthony Melton is definitely an upgrade over Dennis Schroder on defense, but Schroder is not a bad defender in general. When he does lock in, he can be solid. I wouldn't call him a great defender, but if there's one thing that he is really good at on defense, it would have to be screen navigation. That's probably his best attribute in my opinion, currently having a negative 1.2 defensive box plus minus rating, or a negative 0.9 rating, showing that he's not a great defender, but he can have good moments. Being a rather small player but a crafty one, he's really good at getting around screens and can fight over them or under them and get back to his matchup on the court. Maybe not the best for a switch-happy defense, which Golden State will have to keep in mind here as they do tend to do a lot of that, but a really good man-to-man defender, great at playing one-on-one defense and staying attached to his matchup, whether it be screen navigation, defending one-on-one, picking up a guy full court. Schroder can definitely do that. And Golden State fans might remember it from their 2023 playoff matchup with Dennis Schroder. Back when he played for the Lakers, they matched up in the playoffs that year, and Schroder had the difficult task of taking on Steph Curry, which he actually performed pretty well at times. No, he obviously didn't lock down Curry, nobody can do that, but he did give him trouble at times, especially on the 3-point line, and trying to get away from him at the 3-point line. Overall though, definitely not a bad defender, and I think what he does do on defense will help their team. With them no longer having De'Anthony Melton again, Schroder will give them that guy to pick up guys full court, screen navigate on defense, and take on the difficult point of attack matchups. And then combine that with what he does on offense, again being driving to the rim, generating his own shot, playmaking ability, and doing a lot of contrasting of what they currently do. I think it was a really good pickup for their team, and especially for only second-round draft picks. I can still barely believe that. They pretty much got him for 2 second-round draft picks, given that they got one back in return, and for a guy that won't even be helping their team anymore this season, being De'Anthony Melton. So in that regard, definitely a great pickup for their team, and I love what Golden State did here with Dennis Schroder, perhaps even calling it a robbery of a trade. With that being said though, what do you guys think? How do you feel about the trade that Golden State made for Dennis Schroder? Do you like it or do you not like it? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. But I think that'll pretty much do it for this one. And if you enjoyed the video, then I would greatly appreciate it if you dropped a like, subscribe to the channel if you have not already, and hit that notification bell to never miss out when I upload a video. But as always, thank you for watching and have a great day.